Hello, welcome back to Hunter Tune. Today I want to thank the sponsor of this video, Simply Carbon Fiber. If you guys haven't checked out Simply Carbon Fiber, I'll have a link down in the description so you can check out all their products. You can check out Simply Carbon Fiber by using code HUNTER10 for 10% off your order. So Simply Carbon Fiber actually sent over a cash clip or a wallet replacement where your cards just kind of sit in the center fold of the cash clip. So they slide in just like that, and then you can take your cash, fold it up, and slide it under this little belt clip. And it's a very tight and secure fit. Everything looks really nice. These products are made from real carbon fiber. So here's a better look of the clip with the cards here and the cash. So super cool. You guys know us car enthusiasts love our carbon fiber, and if we can bring it with us other places other than our cars, it is kind of cool to just have that kind of style. So they sent over this little cash clip, very good quality products, and the cash clip is very secure. Like, this money is not falling out, as you can see. The cards, same thing, not falling out. I mean, I can knock this thing around, drop it, you know, nothing's falling out. So, good way to keep your stuff secure and add a little style to your day-to-day life. They also sent over this phone case. I have an Apple iPhone. This is an iPhone 12 Pro Max, and I've been using an OtterBox for quite some time, but I was very annoyed that I could not use wireless charging with my OtterBox. This Simply Carbon Fiber case is a lot slimmer, a lot sleeker, in my opinion looks better, and is compatible with wireless charging. This is their Armor, one of their stronger cases that they offer, and it seems to be holding up very good. I've been using it for the last couple weeks and haven't had any issues, and it's very nice when I want to go in for the night. I just chuck it on my wireless charger and everything works great. Like I said, the reason I switched over to this case is because my OtterBox was not able to wirelessly charge. So be sure to go check out Simply Carbon Fiber, guys, and thank you to Simply Carbon Fiber for sponsoring this video. This is my very first technical or like actual video sponsor. They sent over some products and are giving you guys a discount code. So check that stuff out in the description. And let's get to the video. We're going to be tuning a Cutlass today on Holley Terminator and talking about it, so stay tuned. Hello, welcome back to Hunter Tune. Today we're going to be working on my buddy Brandon's Cutlass. This car I did previously tune last year. I think it's been like 11s or so in the quarter. He bracket races it, and he did some upgrades over the winter and decided to bring it back just to kind of optimize the tune and get a couple bugs worked out with the new setup. So this is a 370 cubic inch LS. It's got a set of Y-scope pistons, Gen 4 connecting rods. It's got a Holley split race intake manifold, Siemens Deca 80-pound injectors. It's running on X85 fuel. Has a Thule Racing Stage 5 NA cam and a 4L80E transmission. So he did have a turbo 350 trans in this car, but he takes it to a lot of car shows and stuff. You guys can see this thing looks beautiful. And he wanted something to be able to cruise the highway a little bit better while still keeping a 373 gear out back. So like I said, he switched over to the 4L80. I think he's running a Ryan Jans converter. It's around 4,000 stall or so lockup unit, so we'll be able to lock it up on the highway. But with the big cam and stuff like that, he said that there was some issues with the lockup. When it would lock up, it would almost lock up too early, and the cam at really low RPM like that was kind of, you know, not happy. So we're gonna try to iron out a lot of this stuff. I told him to drop it off for a couple days so I can really kind of work through a lot of the little things. A lot of times when guys bring their stuff to the dyno and we just do dyno session, we can get power tuned in perfectly, but a lot of the drivability stuff, it's best if I can let the car completely cool off, completely heat it up, you know, crank it up cold, crank it up hot, drive it, and work out all the little bugs as time progresses. But sometimes when people are waiting for the car, I do miss a couple little things here and there. So like I said, there is a little bit of a bug with, there was a hot start issue with this car last year that I was trying to figure out. I'm hoping we can work that out today, and I already got a lot of it ironed out pretty good. Like I said, this car is on a Holley Terminator, and I was actually just running the car a little bit, taking some data logs of idling, just to kind of see where everything's at. Obviously the fuel is pretty much perfect. At idle, we don't even have any closed loop correction going on for idle, but for acceleration enrichment on this car, this is me just blapping the throttle. So you guys can see right when I blap the throttle, this is 62% throttle. Our closed loop is at 0, and our air fuel is pretty much right on the money. So the log before this, if I can pull it up here, this is what the car was doing. So this is me blapping the throttle, and you can see before we were 17 air fuel, and the closed loop was trying to add fuel here. So when you'd blap it, it would kind of cough. So I'm trying to get that stuff fixed. Pretty much just going into the file, and I was playing with some acceleration enrichment and adding fuel to the table in these regions. So I think I actually overshot a little bit on the table. I'm probably going to pull this fuel back out of the table, but there's also an acceleration enrichment table here that I just whapped 20% in to try to clean it up a little bit. So that's what we're starting with currently, and I'm not going to really mess with the trans stuff a whole lot yet until we get the motor tuned. Once the motor's tuned in good, I'm going to kind of work into the transmission side of things. So over here we can do our shift parameters, so when it shifts first to second, second to third, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of really good base maps to actually go off of on the Sloppy Mechanics wiki page. I actually have a few of them just that I compare stuff to and go back and forth. One of the, actually pretty much the whole tune on the Black Betty Mustang, I did modify it a little bit, but for the most part, I just stole the 8s for 8s tune-up from Matt Happel over there at Sloppy Mechanics on the wiki page, and it's usually always a great place to start to get your stuff up and running. The Wizard works okay, but the base files that Matt offers for these Holley setups, man, they work good. Let me tell you. So, but every setup's going to be a little bit different, and we might need to play with a little bit of stuff here and there. So hopefully we can find out all the little bugs with this car and get it running top notch for Brandon. So without further ado, I'm actually going to get in the car and I'm going to try to do my first pull, and I got the dyno set up already, so got to get my laptop charger in here, and I'm just going to give this thing a whack. We'll go over the data log, kind of see how close stuff is for now. The learn table, there was a couple spots on the map that was adjusting a little bit, so I did transfer that over, and we're going to kind of see how close stuff is now, and hopefully see where our fuel, everything is at. This car was on E85 before, now it's on X85. It was on just pump E85 before. Now it's on X85, so we're going to see, maybe this X85 will take some more timing, maybe it won't. We'll see. We're going to play around with it. Alright guys, so I just got done doing my first pull with the car, and I noticed a couple things going on right now. When I'm just coasting, the idle air control valve seems to be hanging open for some reason, and after I leave it sit for a while, then it comes back down to idle. I don't know if you guys can tell in video or not. And then when I laid into it, it almost seemed like it was misfiring a little bit. It's kind of hard to tell, but here's what our power curve looks like so far. 371 horsepower. It definitely seems like it's misfiring a little bit. I don't know why, but something seems a little off. So we are going to diagnose a little bit, see if we can find a burnt plug wire or something like that, because it doesn't seem to be running on all 8. It almost seemed like it was hesitating a little bit. So I'm going to check over some of this stuff, and I'll get back with y'all in a minute. I don't know if you guys can notice in the video there where I would fire the car initially, right when you turn the key forward, and it would kind of spit and sputter and then die. And then I'd fire it again and it was perfect. The issue here was actually, I found out later, is that the closed loop, when the O2 sensor was heating, it was still trying to correct. So when the O2 sensor isn't warmed up yet, it's going to read all the way lean or all the way rich, and it's going to think it needs a ton of fuel right when you fire it up. So me and Brandon kind of worked through some stuff and thought of some things and figured out that we just kind of disabled the closed loop until you get on the throttle. So the closed loop is not compensating for starting or idle anymore. But that's just something to keep in mind, especially when the O2 sensor is not warmed up. This issue was like coming about, and no matter what I did with cranking fuel or after start enrichment, it just didn't get any better. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Yeah guys, I did a couple more pulls on the dyno, and it definitely has a misfire going on. It kind of struggles, and it just kind of hesitating as it builds RPM. So I'm gonna have to pull the plugs out of this thing and see if there's a cracked one, or maybe we got a bad coil. I checked all the wires. They don't seem like they're burning on the headers or anything like that. And then I'm gonna show you guys that I did fix the idle air control issue too. The only issue that it still has with the idle is right when you first fire it, it kind of hangs for a second and then comes down. But it used to hang whenever you would blip the throttle, it would hang at like $2 grand. So I got that fixed, but I'm gonna pull the plugs next and see if we can figure out this misfire, because this thing ain't making that much power. Alright guys, the dreaded cracked spark plug has struck again. So this plug right here came out of cylinder 2. I don't know if you guys can even see it or tell on camera, but it is cracked. There she is. So I'm gonna replace this plug, and I'm probably gonna gap these spark plugs down a little bit too, because some of them are pretty big gap. Running X85 fuel and just with all the hop-ups in this motor, I wouldn't want to run a really large gap, just because you know, you risk the breakup issues. Even on an NA car sometimes, especially if the coils are a little older, gapping the plugs down to like 28 thousandths or so is not going to hurt anything performance wise. So I'm probably just going to gap all the plugs down to about 25 to 28 thousandths and fix the cracked one, and then we'll go at it again. So I got my feeler gauge out here, or the spark plug gap tool, and the plugs currently that are in the car are gapped around 58 thousandths. So just a tad bit too big. So also when you run a lower gap on the plugs, they last longer, so you have more room for expansion on the gap as the plugs, you know, get beat on. So these are, like I said, 58, 60 thousandths on the gap. We're gonna run them down about half of that. All right, guys, I'm out back at the shop again, and I just got the new spark plugs put in on the passenger side, the difficult side on these G bodies when they still have the heater box in there. It's a little bit tight to get some of them plugs. I'm gonna move on to the easy side now, and we're gonna get the new spark plugs put in. I gapped them at like 30 thousandths, and out with the old, in with the new. So let's see how these do. Car should run a lot better. All right, getting back in the car here. Get the laptop fired back up. I think I got the cold start stuff figured out pretty good. Just breathe on the key. It fires right up, and it's not idle hanging when I fire it up right now, so that's cool. The dash and stuff isn't working right now because I have the wiring going to the dash and stuff goes to my Holley cable that goes to my computer, so we can actually live tune. Our closed loop currently is pulling 4%. I think if it's within a couple percent, it's really not gonna affect nothing too much, especially on cold start. But if we wanted to, we could go through our temperature enrichment here, and we would just have to, currently we're running about 120 degrees, and you see we're adding 10% over stock, 110, and we would probably need just a smidge more, but it's already coming down to around 0. So I think this table right here is set up pretty good already. And then the idle, this is what I was messing with earlier, because I couldn't get the thing, it was idle hanging, where I would I'd give it throttle and it would hang at 2 grand. So I actually set I turned the ramp down, so like this is like it'll gradually bring the idle back down, the idle air control ramp down. I just pretty much turned it off, and now everything seems to be working a lot better. Yeah, it's definitely running a lot better. It's a lot more responsive now that it's not misfiring. But the Excel enrichment was a little bit off. It wasn't terrible, but I bet you I wouldn't have noticed as much if there wasn't a misfire there. So I got that all figured out. So we're gonna go through here and make a dyno run. See how this thing's gonna do. See, I got my gauge window pulled up. This is what I'm looking at when I do my runs. I just make sure our air fuel is good, and watch the tack and stuff on there. This car is currently on, I think, like 28 degrees of timing. It might not take any more than that, but we'll see. It might take a little more timing down low though, so that might help it out. Did a lot better. It wasn't breaking up or misfiring or nothing. and I think it did a little bit better. So we'll see what kind of power it made. We picked up about 10 horsepower, and we're laying pretty flat after 6,800. So I'm gonna get rid of some of these other runs here. So looking pretty good, but it's definitely struggling up top. It's not really wanting to continue making power up here. So I'm gonna splash, I'm gonna go over the tune quick, see how far off everything is, and we'll see if we can make this thing come alive a little bit more. So this thing sounds pretty good. It seems like it's running good, everything like that, but I do feel like it's choked up somewhere. I don't know if it's the exhaust or the intake. He did change the intake and throttle body compared to the last time this car was here, and he also changed the transmission. So last year when we dynoed this car, it had a turbo 350 tranny, and I was doing second gear dyno runs with it because it had a stock drive shaft and I was scared the thing was gonna fly out. Now it's got a built drive shaft and a 4L80, and I'm doing third gear runs on the dyno, and this thing's down like 80 horsepower to the wheels on this dyno right now with this configuration. So also the tires are a lot bigger on this car now. Even on my Civic, the Barney Civic, when I dynoed it with street tires and I went up a couple inches on the tire size, the dyno definitely got a little bit more pissed, because you got to remember, guys, this is to the wheel horsepower and it's not to the engine. So numbers are a little different when you apply more load to the car itself. It's got to spin more drivetrain, it's got to spin bigger tires, everything like that. So I'm gonna pop the air cleaner off and I'm gonna see if I can clean up some of the fuel. It was adding about 8% fuel up top, and I'm commanding about a 12.5 air fuel. I don't know if it's gonna wanna be richer or leaner. We'll have to play around with that and see, but we did make a pretty good improvement over what it was before. All right, next run, I took the air cleaner off. I'm gonna see if that is hurting power at all up top. Alright guys, so I ended up taking the air cleaner off of the car, and it ended up making a little bit more power, but it wasn't enough to justify it, and it definitely wasn't a restriction through the throttle body or the intake or the exhaust or anything like that. But at the time I couldn't really think, like, why is this thing down on power? And I kind of just blamed it on maybe the tires being bigger, or, you know, having to spin a 4L80 versus a turbo 350 trans, because the 4L80 does rob quite a bit of power in comparison to a turbo 350. So I just said, hey, let's just run it at the track, see what it does, and see if the dyno is lying, you know, or down on power, whatever. And the car actually ran about 8/10 slower than it did last year, and he put a different intake, a better intake, and all this stuff. I figured this thing should have been screaming at least like 7,500 RPM, and it was falling off early, like 6,800 or so. So when he said it was only running about a 12.7 or 12.8, I was like, okay, something's still not right. They ended up changing the coil packs the next week, going back to the track, and it picked up almost a full second to the quarter mile, and it's in the 11s again. So he had some weak coils or some bad coils, but sometimes when you're tuning with the Holley, the misfire stuff is hard to pick up because the Holley doesn't tell you, hey, it's misfiring. So it's, like I said, it's kind of hard to hear it, especially when the intake is so loud and the exhaust is way out the back. It's really kind of hard to tell in the car if it's misfiring, because these things run pretty good on 6 cylinders or 5, you know what I'm saying? So like, we just knew something was up. And like I said, he changed the coils, car picked up. He's gonna bring it back again, and we're gonna re-dyno it. I wouldn't see why the car shouldn't be up at least like 50 horsepower from the best it made on the dyno, which was like 390 before he changed the coils. So he's gonna come back again. We're gonna just make sure everything is kosher, and then we'll pick up with you guys later and let you know how it is. But this car is awesome now. The startup issues are fixed. The The idle hanging is all fixed, and the closed loop can pretty much be turned off. It was literally 0% on pretty much all the wide open stuff that I got figured out. I got it all dialed in. We played with timing back and forth. We actually checked like plug straps and stuff like that. So this thing is A1. Remember guys, not all the tuning can be done completely on the dyno. Sometimes you got to drive the car, you got to take it to the track, you know, you got to do all that stuff to really fully tune it. The dyno is just a tool to help get you there. So, but thanks for watching the video, guys. Thanks for Simply Carbon Fiber for sponsoring it, and I hope you guys stick around, subscribe, like this video if you enjoyed it, and I'm going to try to put up some more videos this week, so stay tuned. Have a great night and a better tomorrow.